Greetings everyone, I'm Record the Second, and welcome to the technical showcase of Snapshot for C for the More Mobs datapack. Make sure to check out the original showcase first before watching this one, otherwise you'll be confused. But let's start and go in the same order as the original video. So the first change I wanted to mention is that all the panel buttons except for the saddle button are now available to players without cheats. Basically what I did is I changed them from function commands to triggers. And you can actually type these in yourself in the chat, /trigger IMM, and you'll probably see all the stuff that you can see on the panel already, and even the panel itself. So you don't even need the panel, you can just run these commands without cheats in survival mode yourself. But the saddle button still requires cheats, however it no longer requires you being in creative mode to execute, so it's still a function command. Also the crafting station recipe and the /reload message both now appear if you install the pack upon world creation automatically, and it's a one-time thing for the player, and that uses advancements. And now onto the Cyclops head. So just like with the Cavecreep head in the last snapshot, you need to make sure you take out the blocks if you place them in the world, and you update your world with the new More Mobs datapack file. You throw the items on the ground and press the convert items button, or run the trigger command to transform the old Cyclops head into the new one. The disturbed skin for Cyclops works after the player has anchored the Cyclops. So even if the Cyclops is fighting iron golems or villagers or whoever else, it's not going to be disturbed because only players make them disturbed. And that's when they get the new sounds and a different texture. In the video I say that the new Cavecreep skin works underneath y=4, but it's actually not true. What's actually going on is the regular Cavecreep skin works above y=4 and up to 44466 on the y-axis. So actually above that limit the new Cavecreep skin will show up instead. Now it's not really much of a technical change I guess, but I'll comment on this anyways. So I removed the Cyclops and Villager skin colors, mainly because it was conflicting with the new Cyclops textures, and a lot of other retrospects that I play with also have some kind of Villager skin color feature, and More Mobs conflicted with this as well, so unfortunately I had to get rid of these features. So just to be completely clear about this, the Cyclops anger sounds are just what plays instead of regular ambient sounds for the Cyclops if the Cyclops is disturbed. So the scoopers and saddles, the way I implemented this one, I used the same thing I did with the way you breed them. So the hitbox is kind of wanky, but it's the way it works. Just make sure to click on top of them to get the saddle off, and then click on their body to get the saddle on. So if you didn't know, in the previous version I added baby F-rays, and sometimes they would spawn on an adult's back, and over time they would just grow up to be fully grown F-rays. In this version now, instead, when they grow up they will just dismount, so it's actually going to summon new entities, but it's going to copy all of the data from the previous entities. So how do the witches drink honey actually? If the witch hasn't attempted to drink a potion in 1 second, it'll take instead 1 second to drink a honey bottle and clear its poison. As with other held items, the honey bottles can be dropped by the witch upon death. So invulnerable LAs are the LAs that have a liked player tag, and all LAs converted through lightning will find a nearby player and instantly like that player. Also, the lightning bolt has to be in a 6-block radius from the Vex or the LA to work, and the cooldown for the transformation is just a little bit over 1 minute, 21 ticks. The change of heart goal will only trigger once you yourself used a channeling trident to turn a Vex into an LA. Also, the Crippling Depression is nothing particularly interesting, it just had the off colors that didn't match the format of other advancements. So the Totem of Avoidance or Wanderer Teleportation can no longer go to the nether roof, which means that the spread player's command no longer works above y=126 if I'm not mistaken. I'll ruin the magic a little bit for you. I'm using villagers, invisible ones for the scooper stuff like breeding, and the new saddle mechanic. Before you would see a villager flash, and in this version it no longer works. And also for some reason in the last snapshot, Wanderers didn't drop anything, so their loot table just didn't work, and now that's been fixed. So this is mainly applicable for Thors, but yeah, Ender Sentinels and Cyclopes will no longer give you a hunger effect if they were killed while hitting you. This one is as simple as that. The Martyrs will just no longer spawn on magma blocks even if other spawning criteria have been met. And this actually is a structure change, so the Pillager Outpost, the main structure itself, not the Mossy Tower, just has an illusioner in it on the top floor that's not persistent. And in the previous versions there was also an illusioner in the Mossy version of the main tower, but this whole structure change is no longer in More Mobs. So, the spawning changes. In the previous version, the overall detection basically just scanned for every biome that's not a nether or an end biome. Now in this version, all dimension checks work like this. it's going to check either for the dimension itself or for the biomes of that dimension. And it's going to check if there are no other biomes from other vanilla dimensions. So for example, if you have a datapack that adds new biomes to the overworld, it's going to detect that this is indeed the overworld, and if it's not a nether biome or an end biome, it's going to spawn overworld mobs there. And if you have in the nether, for example, an overworld biome, it's not going to spawn any nether mobs there. The cave mob spawning criteria basically only work for the miner and the Cavecreep mobs, and basically in the last version I made it so that miners cannot spawn in suffocating, because miners spawn from spiders, and sometimes spiders can spawn in a space that is not occupiable by a 2-block tall mob, right? And now instead of just keeping the original spider, it's going to spawn a cave spider there instead. And here I say that 5% of the flaming tarantula spawns in nether wastes that didn't meet the spawning criteria will become martyrs. Well, the spawning criteria is basically just having enough space for the flaming tarantula to occupy. The same goes pretty much for the spawning requirements for the Wizard Skeleton Force. So before in the fortress, half of the skeletons would become fumes and the other half would become demons. But now there's a bit of a shared percentage for the Wither Skeleton Horses. If they don't meet the spawning criteria, it'll just become a fume instead. So as you know, in every raid wave, there's one patrol leader, and that'll be the mob that'll receive a sea goat horn in their offhand. And also all illusioner patrol leaders can also do the same thing. Now let's talk about the Ziglins and how they spawn with gear. So 37.5% of adult zombified piglins will now spawn with unenchanted crossbows, and 6.94% of the crossbows will be enchanted. And adult zombified piglins now have a 40% chance to spawn with any piece of gold armor, and a 13.89% chance of a piece of armor becoming enchanted. 13.89% of golden swords piglin riders spawn with will now become enchanted. Piglin riders now have a 40% chance to spawn with any piece of gold armor, same as with adult zombified piglins. There's a 13.89% chance of a piece becoming enchanted. So the Technoblade Easter egg works pretty much just like the textures and models for more mob creatures, and the mob is nearly immortal, but it's not 100% impossible to kill. It just has the maximum level of health boost and resistance applied to it at all times, so you don't necessarily need a /kill command, but it's going to be pretty difficult, pretty much impossible in survival. That's really it for this technical showcase. Hope you found the additional information interesting and useful, and don't forget to smash subscribe, ring my bell, and as always, stay.